So in 1519, Hernan Cortez, I may have butchered that name, took a group of conquistadors from Cuba, I believe, to Veracruz, Mexico, and to go fight the Aztecs. Apparently, there was some treasure that they had defended for some 600 years, and had been able to defend it from other marauders or thieves, and they fought off all of these other armies. And Hernan had a smaller army this time around, and they were not as well equipped as other previous armies or conquistadors, but they were kind of out of money and out of time. I think I believe the Spanish government was like calling everybody back for some other reason. So, but it was kind of like a point where they had to go or they had to go home. There was no, oh, we'll wait 6 months and do it again.
Right.
So he makes the decision to go. The crew, their morale is down. They're been away from home for probably years at this point. You know, we're talking wooden ships. We're talking, probably on the verge of starvation by the time you get to your destination, amongst many other things, disease, malnourished, no water, like all sorts of crap is going on. And they finally get to Veracruz. I'm butchering that, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. They get to Mexico. They drop anchor and they take rowboats to the shore. And Cortez is trying to rally the troops, for lack of a better term, trying to get them fired up. And they get to the little land, and he rounds everybody up, and he's kind of talking to them. And apparently he signals back to the ships that are anchored off the coast, out in the deeper water. There's still a small crew of people on the ship. He signals to them, and the crew on the shore looks back, and they see smoke rising from the boats, and they're freaking out. Like, what the heck's going on? And he says, we've burned the boats. We're not going back unless we go home on Aztec ships. So the phrase is burn the boats. And I used that in one of my Good Morning messages the other day, and I really liked that whole idea of like, it's do or die. Now's the time to go. Which is different than burning bridges. And we'll get into that later.
Very different.
Yeah. But
so burn the boats.
Burn the boats, baby.
Means no going back.
No going back. You like when you jump out of an airplane with a parachute on, you can't go, hold on, I need to do that again. It's too late, right? We've already jumped. We've made the jump and we're going.
That's it.
So commit.
Yeah. And I think I've read that story a couple different places. Yeah. And that story always stuck out to me because that one, I think there was a lot of too that I read was that Cortez's men were, they wanted to go home. Like you were saying, they were starving. They'd been away. They hadn't seen their wives, their families. Like, they were like, we're ready to go home. And I think they were all from Spain, right? Like
they Spanish conquistadors.
Conquistadors. And so, but then you said they were in Cuba.
They had sailed to Cuba for some other reason. And then I think, I don't know how they got message some way, somehow from Spain. Like, hey, you need to get home. There was something there that was like, hey, it's now or never. You know, so he had to, you know, Cortez had to make a decision. Like we're going to go into Mexico or we're going home with empty-handed. So,
and that
wasn't an option, apparently.
And he wanted his, and I think legitimately physical and psychological motivation on his men, it was like, we're burning the boats. There is no going back.
Yeah.
You
have no choice now.
We have to conquer.
Yeah.
Conquer in what we have come to do. Like what I think it was to conquer the Aztecs, to get gold, to whatever resources. Like you there's no going back. And I think that's a very valuable
commit.
Yeah.
Commit, baby.
I wonder if when he did that, if he knew how that would reverberate throughout history.
Yeah. And
if he was just like, nope, we're just burning the boats.
And I don't know the aftermath.
Right.
I don't know. Was he successful?
I think they were.
I mean, eventually the Aztecs were conquered. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just, before we get going any further, this is the Formless Podcast, episode 93, with Tyler the Superhuman and me, Dustin. Thank you. But back onto what we were talking about there with the Cortez and the Aztecs. I don't know the aftermath of that. Was it a Charlie Brown and Lucy moment where Charlie Brown's trying to kick the football and Lucy pulls it away at the last second? Or was he successful? That's one of those things that like I didn't really think about after the fact. That story just like called out, not called out to me, but like it really appealed to me lately.
I want to say that they were.
Yeah.
I want to say like, and if we're wrong, we'll come back. And correct
we'll come back
on a
and
podcast,
correct that.
But I want to say that they subdued the Aztec population that they were going after, and they, with the small number of men they had and the small number of rifles they had, the muskets.
Yeah.
I want to say they conquered, and they lost very few, if any, men. So, but again, we'll look up the facts again.
Beside that point though, burn the boats was something that like really, really appealed to me recently. Just because the whole idea of like, if you're going to do something, do it, go all the way. Don't dip your toe in the water, dive in, let's go, which also brought another point, because I was like, I wonder if that's like when I use that quote, burn the boats, I was like, is that similar to burn the bridges? Which, the deeper I thought about that, the more I was like, no, burning bridges I think has to do more with personal relationships.
Yep.
If we burn a bridge, in between, like you and I burn our bridges together, then there's no reconciliation. Yeah, I mean, there could be. If we're going to be adults, hopefully there would be. And we'd talk about it amongst each other and figure it out. But it's not, the context is different.
Totally different.
Yeah.
Burning bridges, the way I like to think of it, is two villages and they've got a bridge between each other, and they're sharing
resources.
Yeah. Vegetables, fruits, agriculture, all that stuff, resources. Yeah. And then one village gets mad at the other village and they've got beef. Well, one village goes and burns the bridge between them. And that
doesn't help anything.
No. And there's no more sharing. I think burning bridges definitely can be a tactical thing in a small percentage of instances. It can be a tactical move, but for the most part, burning bridges is like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
You don't want to burn bridges, really, generally.
Yeah. Whereas burning boats, or like burn the boats, is more of like we're in this together and like we're gonna press on.
It's all forward.
Yeah, all forward momentum.
We can't hop on the boats and sail back to Spain.
Yeah,
yet.
with our tail between our legs. Like, oh, well, we tried. We gave it the old college try.
Yeah, that was something I was raised with my parents. They always, I was always told, it's better to build bridges than burn bridges.
Absolutely.
Burning bridges is not usually a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think, I definitely think there's a time to, you might, certain relationships you have with people, that for business or personal reasons, you might have to cut those relationships off, for the betterment of yourself or the betterment of your family or your business, whatever. I mean, we see that all the time, right? Like we see
it happens well, just look at the news. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
But but I think
generally it's not a good thing.
I think it's a negative connotation, like you were saying. Yeah. I mean, sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes things just don't work out. But for the most part, I think I'd rather focus on burning the boats than burning bridges.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
like I'm going to focus on doing stuff, on making progress, because you're not going to make any progress once you burn that bridge.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, if the diseased village is your neighboring diseased village, right? Like
they're coming across.
Yeah, they're coming across like that, might be
fleas and leprosy and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, no.
That's when you burn that bridge. You say nope, or whatever. You put up walls on that bridge. But yeah, like I said, I think there's a small percentage of time, for the most part, yeah, it's just you want to build bridges, and because you never know when you're going to need that bridge in the future.
Yeah, exactly. And hindsight's always 20/20.
Yeah, and can you imagine like Cortez like wanting to burn bridges with his men but also burn the boats? Like that wouldn't make sense. Like at that point you're like, okay, I don't like,
you're gonna get mutiny.
Yeah, exactly. Like maybe I don't like certain people in my crew, but now like we have to work together. Like there's no alternative. And I wonder like just how true to history that story is, because like imagine you've been away from your family for years. You don't even know, like you can't just send them an email. Right.
You're writing a letter, you're putting it on a boat, and you're praying that boat makes it to its destination at best. And
that your letter doesn't get lost once it gets on land.
And how long would it take? 6 months, a year? Who knows? And all that stuff that could transpire in between the time that letter leaves you and makes it to its destination. And then you go to Mexico and you turn around and your ship that you just arrived on is on fire. Like, wouldn't that be a serious point of contention? Like, the boss just burned the boat. Like, there's no going back.
Yeah.
What do? Do you know what I mean? Like, I could see where some people would be super upset with that.
Like all we hear about is like, oh, he burned the boats.
Like,
and
whoa, that's badass.
And then they push forward, but there's like little moments in between. You're like, yeah.
I'm sure there were more than a few people that were like, great, thanks a lot. Now what are we going to do? You know, here I got this rusty cutlass and a musket that might fire.
And all our supplies were on the boat. Like my blanket and my personal belongings. Like we rode ashore and I thought we were coming back. And like now, and so like, but I'm sure there's little moments there like where the men confronted him and they were like, we're considering throwing you off the nearest cliff, handing you over to the Aztecs.
Yeah. We're going to chop your hands off and let you go deal with them. Like what the heck?
Those are the things we haven't heard about, but I wonder if what happened, those little moments.
Exactly. History there's full of stories. You hear stories like that all the time throughout history. There's all these, but like, there's finer little details that are like, well, did they ask everyone? Did everyone have their input here? Obviously history's told by the victor.
Right.
very few stories get out about the guy who got whooped. You know,
That's true. What did he tell what the guys that knew they were going to burn the boat? Like, what did Cortez, how did he get those guys to keep silent and not tell the rest of the crew?
Could you imagine your boss comes to you and is like, listen, we're going to leave and I'm going to signal to you and you're going to light this boat on fire. You're like, are you cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs? Like, what?
Yeah. And what if the guys said, oh, yeah, sure. Okay.
I'll
yes,
burn
sir,
the boat.
boss.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he signals them, they're like, we're out of here.
Yeah.
And they just go back
Pull
to
up
Spain.
Anchor. See you later.
I mean, I guess Cortez and his men would have been in the same situation, but
yeah, he wouldn't have had a good quote.
yeah. Or what if they just didn't burn the boats and the crew was like, what? Like, you were going to burn the boats? Then they really would have, they would have left him and they would have went back to Spain, you know?
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there's some inaccuracies with my story that I told. But
no. I just wonder about those instances.
You know, that how true is that? Regardless of how true it is, I think it's a great story, and I think it's an awesome quote to think about. You know, when you're trying to do something that may seem like an impossible task or even just a difficult task. You know, the whole, like, I try to motivate myself. I generally don't get a day off. I take Sunday off, and Sundays for like cleanup and get ready for the next week, the coming week. Especially lately. And so I have to, it's a few things that I do, but one of them is just plain old discipline. Like, this has to get done. And I have people relying on me. So like, I have to go to work. I have to make money. The mortgage doesn't care if I don't feel good. It's going to get paid. It has to get paid. The kids don't care if I don't feel like going to work. They're hungry, and I got 2 teenagers and 1 soon to be teenager. So like I find myself occasionally like in this rut of like, oh, I'm tired. I don't care that I'm tired. I talk to myself like, it doesn't matter that you're tired. It doesn't matter that you don't feel like doing it. That can't play into the equation. So occasionally I find myself looking for something to like kind of fire me up. And some days it's super easy and some days I have to search, but that burn the boats thing was like, oh yeah. I like that, I'm going to do this. Nobody's going to write a history book about me, but I might write one for myself, for
your own sanity.
And maybe burn the boats will be a chapter, So.
Can you think of any specific instances where there was like a burn the boat recently?
Really, not recently, I don't think. Well, put it this way, like for the last, 4 weeks, I've had overtime every single day. I don't think I've gotten off work in 8 hours. And on top of that, I've taught martial arts twice a week, done the podcast, worked on stuff in between for the podcast, thinking of like trying to get guests, trying to like come up with quotes, trying to like come up with an outline, just the rigmarole of all of that stuff. So, just fighting against the monotony of doing it again, do it again and again and again. I joke with people that it's Groundhog Day. If you haven't seen that movie with Bill Murray, how's it going? Groundhog Day. It's Groundhog Day. Just repeating, rinse and repeat over and over again. Well, yeah, like getting laid off, getting denied unemployment. Oh, no, not denied unemployment. I take that back. I didn't get denied unemployment. I got unemployment. I didn't get any other government assistance. Cashing out my retirement.
That's
a burn the boat.
That's a burn the boat.
And that was like just to survive. That was like, okay, well, got to pay the mortgage, got to put food on the table, got to figure that out, and thankfully I had that. Had I had to do it all over again, I think I would have done some things differently, but I can't go back, If it ever happens again, hope to God it doesn't. But if something like that ever happens again, hopefully I'll be wiser for it. But I think all of those things, all of those trials, all of those issues that you face, you can look at them one of two ways. And it's a fine line, but you can look at it as like, oh, poor me. Life's so hard and all of this stuff has happened to me and it's so tough. Or this is making me stronger for the next challenge, or this is going to forge me into being what I'm capable of. At least that's what I have to tell myself. When stuff gets hard, It's like, okay, well, this is what I'm going to do. Apparently this is life lined out for me here. This is how it's supposed to go. So let's go. I can't look at it the other way. I can't look at it as like, poor me. I can't get on that. I can't get on that road. 'Cause that's just negative. That doesn't bode well for me personally. If I wallow in self-pity, I just stay there. And I'm kind of prone to the, not prone. I guess that is the right word. I'm prone to being negative, having a negative outlook on things.
Jeez. Can you be positive? No, just kidding.
Yeah. So no. Like I have to really watch myself. Otherwise I'll go dark really quick and I'll stay there. And like, I don't like that feeling. I don't like that. I know it's there, but I liken it to being like having a bad habit, right? Like if you have a problem with drinking, you shouldn't go hang out at bars.
Right.
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 If you have a problem with smoking, you shouldn't like sit next to somebody who's chain smoking. Right. So like that whole path of like wallowing in self-pity and being negative, like I've got to be really careful about that. And like, so I don't, if there's negative people around me, I find a way to distance myself from that or try and nip it in the butt.
That's what I was talking about earlier. Those are the bridges that you kind of burn.
That or put a guard up there.
Or put a guard up, yeah.
You shall not pass.
Yeah, there you go, yeah.
And I learned that actually from actually a prior guest he didn't sit down and be like, teach it to me, but just like his outlook on things. Mark
Sensei Montgomery.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you got to guard yourself against that. And I think he said it. We were just talking like in passing. He's like, yeah, I kind of watched that. I got to like hold that stuff off at a distance because it's the old story of like, you are a composite of the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Yep.
And, yeah, that was a big flashlight in the dark kind of moment for me. Like, oh, I mean, I've heard it before, but the way he laid it out, I was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Like, duh.
When I hear that and you and him talking, like I just imagine that moment, you and him and talking, and you were probably already feeling some of that stuff.
Yeah.
And then feeling in the dark, right? You were feeling that stuff in the dark. And then he came in and said that. And like you said, it was a flashlight illuminating the darkness of what you were already feeling.
Yeah. And yeah, perfect analogy. That's good.
But keep going.
No, I just, so I try not to dwell there. And so I look for things that are positive, things that ring true, I have to watch that with all sorts of stuff. Like if I watch a dark, depressing movie like Schindler's List,
oh man,
great movie, but terribly sad, or social media. If I get on that, if I find a post and it's all negative stuff, I'm like, scroll past this.
Yeah.
I don't need that in my life. And if I'm not careful with that kind of stuff, I'll find for whatever reason, it just, I'm attracted to it if I'm not careful with it. Right. And then I'll be negative. And it's not healthy for me.
Not healthy.
I don't think it's healthy for anyone,
No.
but definitely not healthy for me. So burn boats, don't burn bridges.
But if you have to put up guards, and
you shall not pass.
I've noticed I've definitely as I've gotten older, I've done that type of stuff where I'm like, you know what, I'm not going to put up with this kind of behavior, and this person is repeatedly displaying this type of behavior, and I'm like, nah,
it's not good for me.
No, it's not good. And then it's so funny because when you, like you said, we're the sum average of the 5 people you hang around the most. Well, this wise piece of advice I got when I was very young, in my teens, I believe. I think it was sometime in my teens, I believe. A person told me, they said, when you hang around those types of people that have those behaviors, like you're saying, negative people, or that, just don't have that positive outlook or whatever, that you will begin to act like them, and you will absorb their habits and their behaviors and the way they talk, everything, right? It'll start to affect you, and you won't even be able to see it. I mean, maybe you might, but and so that's really come back to, something in the last 5-6 years I've really thought about. And then I've started to fast from a lot of those people.
I like that term.
Fast.
I like that term. Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you think about it, like you've got a movie that you made, you've got a production, you have the production company and all of this stuff. And they don't necessarily need to be totally like-minded, but they all need to be united and at least have the same vision on the horizon. Like, hey, that's the direction we're going. And if you have 5 people and they're all sailing in different directions, it's going to be really tough to get anything done. If you can at all, like anything else, like a partnership in a business or a relationship. Recently, actually, my wife and I got into a conversation where we're in a good place, but we're both working a lot, and she's going to school and stuff. And we had the same goals, like the same, like, she's doing this on Monday, I'm doing this on Monday, Tuesday. We weren't really letting each other know what was going on. And it was this circle, like where everything starts out good, and then it kind of gets askew because, oh, I didn't know you were doing that, and she didn't know I was doing this. And I'm like, okay, we need to sit down on pick a day. We need to sit down and here's what I have lined out. Here's what you've got lined out. Let's figure this out together so we're on the same page again. We don't necessarily have to do all of this together, but we kind of need to know where things overlap so we're not expecting the other one to be along with us, or we're not you know what I mean? Like let's outline the week and figure this stuff out so we're all on the same page, so we know what each other's doing, so nothing comes as a surprise. And that solved a lot of the chaos in our everyday life for us. And just like what we do with this, it's like, hey, what are we doing on Friday? What are we doing on Saturday? Like what guests do we have lined out? Are we doing this? Da 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 da. And we don't need to do it every single day, but once or twice a week, we message each other and we kind of like figure things, oh, okay, yeah, we're doing it this Saturday. Oh, we're going to do it later in the evening because, I'm going fishing tomorrow morning or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So somebody's not sitting here at 10 a.m. going, where's the other guy at? What's going on? And it helps. That communication part definitely helps.
Then the first, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think we got a skew there somewhere.
No, I mean, well, yeah, I mean, Cortez, was the leader and he had to get his men all on the same page, and I think that's something that's sorely lacking in our divided world, divided society, is leadership and people getting on the same page. Cause as the saying goes, too many cooks spoil the broth.
Yeah.
Too many chiefs, not enough Indians.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. And I think good leadership and of course, coming from a military background, you have 100 men in a company. You can't have, that's not a democracy.
No.
That's not a republic. That's a military, a military unit where one person's in charge making the decisions, And so, kind of like Cortez, one person was in charge and of course, that person in charge needs to listen, and coordinate with the other people below them.
Absolutely. Yeah. There has to be room for discussion there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because otherwise then it's just a dictatorship.
Yeah. And those don't usually end well.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah.
No, I totally agree. And the military has, for all of its faults, it does put order into the chaos.
Oh yeah. You can't in a combat situation, it's hard to sit down and have a room for conversation.
Yeah. Like that, okay, hey, let's think about this for a minute. Meanwhile, there's bullets flying overhead and grenades and stuff. Yeah. No, there was time for that before this.
Exactly.
We need to go there.
Yeah. But like in more civil, civil situations, civilian situations, but I definitely think that's something that is lacking is strong leadership in areas. And I think that like you sitting down with your wife and saying, hey, let's coordinate. That's taking a leadership position. That's taking charge and saying like, hey, we need to figure out our week. And where I'm going to be. And so we're not going in two different directions and we don't know. And that's pretty cool to hear, taking charge.
Yeah. Well,
being the man.
Well, really I said that, but it was actually, my wife complaining that she didn't know what I was doing. So it made it more difficult on her to plan things out. So it was her frustration and her voicing that frustration that allowed me to go, wait a minute, I'm the cause of that. Like, I got to bear that responsibility. Not that it's all 100% my fault, but it is. Right? Like if you don't like the way things are going, then like nip that in the butt. Like, let's fix this so it doesn't, continue to, it's going to snowball. That's really funny you mentioned that. You were talking about combat situation. There's a story, Jocko podcast. I'm going through all of them. Like, I'm 200 behind or whatever, but I've listened to every single one up to 322, I believe.
322 podcasts.
Yeah, I've listened to every single one up to there. But he talks about how being a leader, like if and he learned this lesson the hard way, like they would be doing an operation, like a training deal, and what did he call it? Like front sight focused.
Yep.
So you're worried about shooting, right? And he's like, if you're the leader, your job isn't to be the shooter. Your job is to observe what's going on and where your people need to be. And so, hey, we need to cover that doorway. We need to go cover this hall, or cover around this hillside, or whatever. But in order for you to do that, you can't be looking down the sight of your rifle. Sometimes you got to stand up and look around, or not if people are shooting at you, obviously. Don't stand up. But take the time to kind of step back and look and see what's going on and be the eyes for the group.
You have to have the God's eye view, the bird's eye view, the overhead view. Yeah, that's it.
Otherwise, you can't see the trees for the forest.
No, you can't. And so, yeah, and that's, but, and I'm sure that Jocko in those situations is very similar to the elements, even though he was a Navy SEAL, I was a National Guardsman. Yeah. We'll put it in that context. It's the elements are very similar in that the leadership I had, I would always see the leadership. They were doing the same thing, like what you were saying Jocko was doing. They weren't, my lieutenant in our combat situations in Afghanistan, in our convoys, he wasn't the one physically shooting at the enemy that I ever knew of or saw. He was the one on the radio talking to the base that we were going to, and coordinating everything between the different vehicles and letting the men do the job, because we had been trained up to that point that, okay, now we're in a gunfight and an ambush. The vehicle in the front of the convoy needs to also be talking to the vehicle 3 vehicles back, or the rear of the convoy, hey, watch this corner. We went around this corner and watch this corner. Yeah. And so it's very much, it's a, you're definitely you're in command, but you're also letting all these different all the different little units do their own thing, but you're supervising them. Yeah. I don't know how else to describe it. I hope that made sense.
That's a perfect, that made sense. So it's like,
the lieutenant's not sitting there in his vehicle saying, hey, vehicle number 4 behind me, turn your wheels 45 degrees and go around that pothole. He's just assuming they're smart enough to go around that hole in the road.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah.
But you may have to sometimes say stuff like that. Hey, did you guys see that hole in the road? Avoid that hole, in case you didn't.
Yeah. Well, okay, Saturday, this morning, teaching class, I found myself getting into the middle of everything, drilling with everyone else. And I'm like, wait a minute. I can't see what any of the other students are doing because I'm focused on doing it myself. So I had to remove myself from my turn.
Yes.
So step out and walk around, check everyone out, make sure everyone's doing what they're supposed to do, doing it the correct way so they don't develop bad habits later. Yeah. So that was that's a safer context, I guess. That's
very much safer.
More relatable context to me. I've never been shot at. Yeah. So,
well, no, but you do that. You do that really well in class. You bounce around to the different groups, and you're not the one training. You might show a kick, right? I saw you in class today. You're showing a kick, but then you're watching to make sure that everyone's getting the training they need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I try to. I try to.
You do.
The first time I taught a class here, it was one of those like, hey, can you cover for me an emergency situation kind of thing? And I had 25 students, and it was me. And it was the first time I had been in charge. Like, first time it's all on me. I'm teaching. And I can't remember. Was it here? I think it was at this building. So got 25 kids, got a packed room. All of the parents are there. And I'm just watching the clock because I'm dreading this thing. Like, this is it was hard. Like, it had been raining. I got a bunch of young kids in here who were all been cooped up all day long. And then they get set into basically a rubber room, right? A padded room where they can just run around and scream and do whatever. So I'm trying to keep everyone's attention, trying to keep everybody on the job, right? Class ends and I'm like, whew, get them all out of here. And as they're all filing out, I'm saying goodbye. And one of the parents goes, you didn't work with my kid at all. Not thank you, not goodbye, not kiss my butt, you didn't work with my kid at all. And I was like, okay. Never having that complaint again. And so like, that's one of the reasons why I try and walk around and make sure that I work with everyone, adults, kids, everyone. I try to. I don't always succeed. That's kind of a tough task when there's a lot of stuff going on and you have different abilities and different ranks and stuff. And depending on the size of the class and the topics we're covering, it gets a little hairy there sometimes. But yeah, that was one of those lessons that was like right here.
Right there. You know? Parent got right in your face. Yeah. Was it mom or dad?
It was a mom.
Mom. Okay. You probably said that. Yeah. And how many kids? You said 25 kids.
I think there was like 25 kids.
See, and I would look at that and be like, okay, like one instructor to 25 kids, like.
Yeah, it was one of those times where it was extraordinary circumstances, right? You know, it was like the contingency of the contingency of the contingency, you know, all of this, it was like a perfect storm. Like all of these things happened and you're left holding, you know, holding the whatever you hold.
Holding the angry parent right in front of you.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, hey, you brought in a little gift for us to try out.
Yeah.
We should probably talk about that now.
Yeah. So so as part of my goal, right, I've been hitting the gym most weeks 4 days a week. If not like this week, I did 5 days a week.
Okay.
And, so really anywhere between 3 and 5 days a week hitting them. And then, I'd been seeing Jocko Willick's ads for his Mulk shakes. And I was just like, you know, I got to try these. And I saw his ad with Chris Pratt and him and how they were now being sold at Walmart.
Yeah.
His Mulk shakes. And so I was like,
I got to try those.
Yeah. I was like, I got to go. So I went to Walmart and I got them. And this whole week I've been having one after my workout and man, they taste so good.
Really?
Yeah.
I have not had one yet.
Yeah, so you have the vanilla one, vanilla Mulk. I've got the chocolate, and it's been nice because, you know, you do like a hard workout and you're like, man, at the end, and now that I have something to look forward to is like a tasty
treat.
Yeah, like
that's good for you.
Yeah, like 30 grams of protein, you know, no sugars. You know, I think it's got allulose, Reb M, and monk fruit extract for the sweeteners. So those 3 things. And
no high fructose corn syrup.
No. And so, so it's been nice to get done with my workout and take like a couple minutes and
do we shake it?
Drink. Yeah, we shake one of these. And so, I really recommend them. They're really good.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
So
this is not a paid advertisement unless somebody wants to pay us for that. But, that's tasty. That is tasty. I was expecting something real thick, like a shake. You know what I mean? Like you think protein shake, I think of like a chocolate milkshake at In-N-Out. You know how they're like so thick you can't hardly eat them. you can't drink out of the straw. You got to let it thaw out a little bit.
The In-N-Out ones, they're super thick. Yeah,
they're so tasty. Not necessarily healthy for you, but it's tasty. This is good.
These are good.
Yeah.
Jocko Mulk. Right? Mulk, is that how you say it? It's not milk, it's Mulk.
Yeah.
And so I love his tagline, the hard work, clean fuel, no excuses.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good one.
And I know you're a big fan of him, and we just quoted him.
Huge fan. So yeah, thank you. I appreciate the treat.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So Jocko, good job on these.
Yeah, and you can make the checks payable to the Formless Podcast, Jocko, at P.O. Box 617, Shasta, California, 96087. Right?
Yeah.
Hey, might as well. And the cool thing is you don't have to go to like some specialty store like you can get them at Walmart. And there's literally a Walmart everywhere they have electricity. So tag for Walmart too. Walmart, same address.
Well, we take crypto as well.
Bitcoin. Yeah. Oh, right on. So any news on the movie? I heard that you guys got into a film festival.
So the distribution deal has been signed.
Sweet.
Are you
going to be pulling up in a limo anytime soon to class?
No.
Okay.
Not anytime soon, but who knows? Maybe we'll do a podcast in the back of a limo one day. No, but yeah, so distribution deal has been signed. All the materials, the deliverables have been gotten to the distribution company. Me and Luke worked very hard on that. And actually, as of yesterday, Friday, so we're on a Saturday. Friday, that was our due date to get all the deliverables, all the files, everything to the distribution company. So now they'll be going through their quality control process to check all the files to make
make sure nothing's corrupted, or hey, this file's in this format and we needed it in this format, that kind of thing.
Correct. And so we'll be talking with them, and they'll be talking about when they want to do a release date for the DVD and then a release date for the streaming options. And so,
wow.
So they want to do a streaming, send it to streaming services. I do not know where yet. And then they want to do a DVD release. And so that I do not know where the DVDs will be sold. Most likely on Amazon.
Yeah.
Is where they're talking about. That could change. But
that's like the biggest market, right?
Yeah.
So might as well go after the biggest fish.
Yeah. So exactly. And so that's where we stand right now. We're everything has been delivered to them, and we're now waiting on them to check everything, and then they'll make a decision where they want to put it all. And so the distribution company is BMG / Twin Engines. BMG stands for Bridgestone Media Group.
Okay.
Yeah, there's another BMG that's with like music.
Yeah.
That's not the one we're with. We're with Bridgestone Media Group / Twin Engines, and they do movies. And so
right on.
So that's where we're at. And
how cool, man.
Yeah. So we'll be following up with more details in the future, but that's all I got for right now.
Okay, that's cool. And the other really cool thing about that is like now you have a relationship with that company.
Yes.
And so like, hey, I got another thing in the works.
Yep.
I've got another movie in production. I've got this going on. I just checked out this script.
Yeah.
You just keep reminding them that you're still here.
Reminding them that I'm still here.
Putting the work in, buddy.
Yeah. And it's really, that's right. It is. I'm still putting the work in, and it makes it so it's going to, of course, I haven't experienced this yet, but I've seen other people go through this, that now that we have that successful relationship where, see, you like those.
I do. I'm thirsty.
So we have that relationship now. And that even whether or not the next movie I do goes with them, maybe the next movie goes with someone else, and then my third movie goes back to BMG, whatever, or my second movie goes to BMG. But now I've got that we're reputable now that we've had.
You actually have some substance, not just like you're no longer a talker.
No.
Right?
We did it.
And more importantly, we do.
We do, yeah. Yeah, so we're going to see how that goes. I'm working on so that's it for Miracle Mile. We're just waiting on more details, and then we'll be talking with them. And then one of the people I worked with on Miracle Mile, this individual and I are looking for money for a different type of film to do. Yeah, and we're trying to go after some big money. May be successful, maybe not. You know, a lot of these projects, you get going on them and then there's no interest. You got to shift to something else. You know, you got to shift projects. You know, you hear these big directors and producers that had movies in development hell for years, right?
Yeah.
Because they could never get funding or they couldn't, there was just no interest. So this individual and I, we've got an idea for a movie that we really want to go after. Really, it's a personal movie for us, and then our story, and then I kind of like what we were talking about earlier. Like I really want to get into doing that's narrative, a narrative movie that we would be doing.
Yeah, but
I really want to get into documentary work and doing more documentary work and have some more ideas there for things of what to do. And I've got a couple ideas, and I think that could be really fun because we live in such a golden age of documentaries. You know, all the documentaries that are out on Netflix, and they're just all these streaming services, and they're just so good.
Well, and the cool thing with all of that access to media, there's something for everyone, which is cool. Like you can literally find some piece of media, whether it's music or movies or TV shows, about any hobby or any interest that anyone has. I mean, I've seen documentaries on radio controlled cars, like the RC cars. You know, I've the building of them or the racing of them, or just there's so much stuff out there and the access to it. Now, is it great? Yeah, some opinions vary, but like the point is it's there. And it's a cool time. I couldn't agree more with you with that statement. Like it's a cool time to in that realm.
Yeah, that was the word I was gonna say. Yeah. So I definitely would like to do some documentary work, but the cool thing is now with, I mean, I say this humbly, we have leveled up. Like I have leveled up now, like with having a movie that's now gotten official distribution, like signed distribution.
You're not just opening the trunk of your car and being like, hey, I got movies.
Yeah.
Like in the 90s, it was walking around the mall and I went into the music store. This was when they sold CDs in stores. Like they had a store that just sold music.
What are CDs?
Exactly. And I walk out of there and there's a guy selling his rap CD. Right?
Yeah.
And he was, kudos to him, he was hitting every single person that walked out of that store. He's like, hey, I got this CD, da-da-da-da, I'm a local musician, blah, blah, blah. And that was like the way, he was doing it. And although people still do stuff like that, like there's other avenues now. There's just more opportunity for you to do things differently. Like you have more options. Because before, like in the Stone Age, before the internet, like how else did you get that?
Right.
Yeah. So it's cool, man.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It's awesome to see. It's awesome to see that. And it's been a long time coming.
Long time coming. Yeah. And so, yeah, thank you. And that's that aspect of that is now, like we have now broken through a barrier that we don't have to go through again. Like that is
that door's open now.
that door's open.
As long as you make the right moves and don't burn your bridges, that door is open for you.
I like where you landed that.
Very cool. Very cool. There was one other thing I wanted to ask you about. I saw that Luke had finished all the behind the scenes stuff. So that's all that'll be on the DVD.
That's all going to be on the DVD. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Cool. And Luke did a phenomenal job of like compiling everything about the film. I mean, he was finding pictures and videos from 6 years ago.
Oh, wow. So like, yeah, he kept everything.
Yeah. Or was able to get it from people,
yeah.
and just assembled it. And the documentary, just the making of it, it's really good. It's really good. The behind the scenes making of the Miracle Mile movie. It's really good. And there was so much that had to be left out because you just can't.
You can't include everything.
Yeah. No. But what ended up in there is just fantastic. And Luke he edited it and it just did a fantastic job. And it's so good. And it's the behind the scenes featurettes are up there, I would say, with the best Hollywood stuff as far as
really
the interviews and people telling detailed stories and just like everything. It's really good. Like I'm impressed. I saw it and I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm the producer.
Very cool. Very cool.
So he did a fantastic job. And so, that's that. And so we're kind of flirting with the idea right now. We've got 2 sequel ideas in mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've got 2 sequel ideas in mind to move forward with, and but we've got to show that we can make money on this one. A good amount of money, and then we can move forward with 2 sequels. But I don't want to say too much. But,
yeah, no, don't.
But that's one plan.
Very cool. Very cool.
As long as we don't burn bridges.
Yeah, don't burn bridges. How about your goals? I noticed you had texted me a while back about how you hit.
Right. So like I was saying with the Jocko's Milk protein drinks, that I've been hitting the gym 3 to 5 days a week, most of the time 4 days a week, and been staying on my goal, working on my bench press twice a week. I think this week it was either 2 or 3 times I worked on my bench with it.
Right on.
With a day of rest in between. I think I did Monday and I think Wednesday and Friday. And I don't do that every week, but just this week I wanted to really push it. And so, still working towards that goal, still pushing. And this week I went to try to max out my bench press and do my 1 rep max at I think I tried to do 175 and I couldn't do it. I couldn't even get it. And so I'm like, oh, okay, back to the drawing board. Like,
got something to shoot for.
Yeah. And I did 165, I think, last week.
Okay.
And so 1 rep. And so still pushing at it.
Very cool.
Pushing for that 225.
Right on.
What about your goals?
Still working on them. Still doing them. Some of them, my stretching and my exercise. I've been getting plenty of exercise. But I haven't been stretching as much as I'd like to. But I've made a habit of when I'm in here, it's like no excuses. Go. So I've been trying to get down here as much as possible so I don't have any excuses. I've put a little more, I'm getting better about the podcast and getting more stuff, like more consistently getting that out. We're ahead 3 episodes. We got stuff in the can now. So
that's awesome.
So there's hopefully the lag time will be limited and it'll be more scheduled. So that was a big thing for me, like just getting that more organized and getting that more consistency. So I got that going, got the checklist, although I don't have it out. I didn't need it apparently today. It's over there somewhere, but I got it, but just following that and like having the checklist kind of there in my head. So if I get too off the rails, I can
something to
bring
refer
myself
to.
back,
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just plugging along,
Well, here we are in now March 1st.
March 1st, 93. We still have to talk about 100.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We got to figure that out. But I think that's it. I think that's a good stopping point right there. Friends, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. We'll be back again next week. Check us out on social media. You can always reach out to us there. Formless Pod on Facebook, Instagram, X, email formlesspod@gmail.com.
Website
formlesspod.com. I think that's it. All right, friends, take care.